Congratulations indeed. In the difficult circumstances, you still really made a very positive impact in the country. I would furthermore like to make the following remarks. The time for reply by the Deputy President to a question is 5 minutes. Only 4 supplementary questions are allowed per question. A member who has asked the initial question would be the first to be afforded an opportunity to ask a supplementary question. The time for the asking of a supplementary question is 2 minutes. The time for reply to that question is 4 minutes. The supplementary question must emanate from the initial question. Having said that, we will now call on the Deputy President, the Honorable David Mabuza, to respond to the questions asked by the honorable members.
Thank you, Deputy Chair, for the opportunity. Our response to the first question, we really welcome this question because it gives us an opportunity to explain to the people of South Africa why we've expended so much time, so much resources and energy on matters that are far afield as those in South Sudan. We are happy to report that, yes, indeed, there is progress. Our involvement in South Sudan and the Intergovernmental Authority on Development region has always been lending a hand of support in assisting the South Sudanese people to find solutions to their challenges through dialogue means, as well as to assist them to constitute a revitalized transitional government of national unity. At the center of the mandate of this unity government, it is to ensure that the process of national reconciliation and healing is realized through the restoration of permanent and sustainable peace, security, and stability in South Sudan. The conflict that erupted in 2013 had led to the losses of life and displacement of ordinary people, especially women and children, and serious fragmentation of the security forces. The issue of the number of states and their boundaries and the unification of the necessary armed forces were the 2 key outstanding pre-transitional matters that needed to be completed. Now, that has led to the 2 successive extensions of the pre-transitional period in May and in November, because these 2 matters were not completed. On the number of states, the matter was settled when President Salva Kiir made a proclamation to return the country to 10 states with 3 administrative areas. This then paved the way for the formation of the revitalized transitional government of national unity. On the matter of transitional security arrangement, there is good, discernible progress that has been registered so far, which is a good foundation for further progress. On the 22nd of February 2020, we attended a swearing-in of vice presidents and the inauguration of the revitalized unity government, which in all intents and purposes mark the beginning of a process of national healing and national unity. Honorable members and Honorable Chair, Deputy Chair, we are aware that leaders in South Sudan have much work to do in this coming 36 months of the transitional period. because in that period they should draft a permanent constitution and they should get ready to conduct democratic elections. In pursuit of the African agenda of building a stable and a secure, peaceful Africa, South Africa will continue to support South Sudan on post-conflict reconstruction and development efforts, especially in establishing strong and resilient institutions to anchor democratic governance, to anchor peace, security, and stability. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy President. Honorable Mohai, do you have any supplementary question?
Thanks very much, Deputy Chair, and thanks to the Deputy President response. Let me also take this opportunity, Deputy Chair, to join the ANC and the rest of the people of South Africa in congratulating Comrade Deputy President for his illustrious leadership and for receiving the African Leadership Impact Award, which was awarded in recognition of key role he played in brokering a peace deal in South Sudan. We also want to commend the South African government, together with the African Union leadership, for sterling work in brokering a peace deal in Sudan and helping the Sudanese people to find answers to their own problems. Deputy President, I just want to share with us to what extent are solutions to problems facing South Sudan exclusively the collective imagination and wisdom of Sudanese, devoid of external influences from the rest of the world. I'm raising this question because history in conflict situations bears enormous evidence that peace process always fail if solutions are not homegrown. Is the Deputy President confident that the building blocks have seen or realized the participation of the citizenry towards realizing this? Thanks, Deputy Chair.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chair.
Yes.
Well, what is encouraging in the situation of South Sudan is that all the parties that were in this conflict, firstly, they are signatory to the peace agreement. They've all entered into the peace agreement. They've signed a revitalized peace agreement document. Now, it's a very extensive document with a lot of things that must be achieved on certain time frames, and they could not adhere to the time frames, and that led to postponement, and the two outstanding issues were these borders and the security forces, the unification. Now, the question of borders was given to us as South Africa to lead and mediate, and we mediated successfully. And in this case, I must thank the Deputy President, Dr. Riek Machar of South Sudan. I must thank the President, President Salva Kiir, our President, President Cyril Ramaphosa, for the role they've played to push these parties to agree. In this way, they've given the people of South Sudan a chance to peace. We congratulate them. But in the main, all the committees that are formed, are found in the peace agreement documents, are made up of South Sudan people. They've been struggling to find one another. There's an element of trust deficit. They don't trust one another. From time to time, there will be disruptions. It was not an easy exercise. It's not going to be easy to allow the process of healing. These are people that fought. These are people that majority were displaced. They took up arms, they fought amongst themselves. And we're sure that the period that we've entered into will mark the beginning of peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy President. The next supplementary question will be Honorable Makausi.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker, Deputy House Chair. Deputy President, we've been to Sudan as a country, South Africa, and spent more time there. Perhaps don't you think that it's time that we be honest and ask ourselves if our intervention has helped Sudan? We all know that diplomacy can take quite some time, but nonetheless, South Africa has been involved in this process. Shouldn't we perhaps consider giving other people who have not intervened in the issue of Sudan a chance to go there, intervene? Perhaps take another approach which is more inclusive, which is more democratic, or maybe give young people within a region a chance to intervene within South Sudan.
Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much. I think the process that was followed in South Sudan was initiated by the African Union. All the structures created, it was of the African Union. If we talk of IGAD, IGAD is called Intergovernmental Authority on Development in that region. Now, all leaders in that region were given the responsibility to look after South Sudan by the AU. And we happen to be in that space as South Africa because we're appointed in two categories. We're appointed as a body called C5. These are 5 countries that are also supporting the peace process in South Sudan. So we're part of the C5, and we're part in the handling the matter of borders, the number of states. It was chaired by South Africa. Now, we're also given an opportunity to mediate through our special envoy, which in this case is myself. Then, in the process, with other special envoys, Kenya, Uganda, Sudan, Ethiopia, all these countries have sent their special envoys. Now, I was requested by the group of special envoys to mediate and chair. Then I chaired the matter on the boundaries until to a point where we found a solution on a matter that was very difficult. It's emotional when it comes to them. It involves their tribal setup. It involves the previous conflicts, the fighting. So I think the AU is doing very well in trying to silence the guns. It's an effort that we should continue. South Africa must not undermine itself. What I've noticed is that our brothers and sisters in the continent do respect South Africa. Now, it's through that respect that probably we are afforded the space, we're listened at, probably that is why we managed to broker this peace. And every time they recognize South Africa. At times we feel ashamed because they will call South Africa as the big brother, big brother. We don't feel good about that. But you as a country, you should not undermine yourself. Your brothers and sisters rely on yourself. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy President. Honorable Nana.
I'm being intimidated, Deputy Chairperson. Honorable Deputy President, elections were initially promised in South Sudan in 2015. They were postponed to 2018, and most recently they have now been moved to 2021. In terms of the African peer review mechanism, what do you think is the recommendation of the African Union insofar as the legitimacy of that government of South Sudan is concerned? Thank you.
Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much. That is why the African Union established IGAD. Now, IGAD has insisted that all the parties that are in conflict in South Sudan must come together and be signatory to the peace agreement. So firstly, all the warring factions were together in signing the peace agreement document. Now, in that peace agreement, in the main, it ceasefire. All those who are fighting, they must stop fighting. Now, they had to form structures together, all of them. Structures that will be looking at pre-transitional mechanisms that will prepare the country to the transitional period. As we speak now, they've entered, as from the 22nd of February, they've entered into the transitional period. It's no longer pre now. Now, in the transitional period, they must attend to the constitution. They've got a draft constitution. Now, after adopting the constitution, then they must prepare for elections. Then there are certain institutions, bodies, like yourself here, you have got chapter 9s, you must still deal with provinces, you must deal with everything that is in the constitution. They must agree as South Sudan people before they go to the election. But as South Africa, we are going to assist them. We'll continue our support in terms of the cantonment, the training, and the screening of all the armed forces. Because there we want these people to put down their arms. It's only the National Defense Force of that country that can carry a gun or a rifle. Not anyone. Ordinary people must be disarmed. Soldiers must go to containment areas and let them be trained, be screened, so that we have one national defense force, an army of South Sudan. So I'm confident that it's a difficult journey, but they will make it. With the support of the AU, our president as the chair, I think they are in good hands. We'll continue to support them. In terms of resources, we have already taken food there. We have taken uniforms. So South Africa has been very supportive, including other countries like your Kenya, like your Uganda. They've been very supportive of South Sudan. We take it, it is our responsibility. It's one of us. These are our brothers and sisters in the continent, and we must find an African solution to African problems. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy President. Honorable Gillian.
The Chairperson. Deputy President, the biggest challenge facing the transitional government is to ensure that there is lasting peace, development, social justice, and economic progress for the people of South Sudan. My question today, Deputy President, is whether there are any plans to ensure that the transitional government implements a comprehensive program of security sector reform aimed at establishing a professional and revitalization of South Sudan.
Thank you very much. The step that we've reached now of the transitional government does not suggest that IGAD must disengage, AU must disengage, as special envoy we must disengage. In fact, we are going to reinforce more to be with them. Currently, we are dealing with the security mechanisms because there's complaint that some are not going to the cantonment areas. Some soldiers are loitering around. They are seen carrying rifles everywhere. But in terms of the peace agreement, every soldier must be in a cantonment area. There is a cry about logistics. They can't carry food to the soldiers, they can't travel, they need assistance of your choppers, your food and all that. So the AU will discuss that. Our leaders will then give directive through IGAD to the special envoys, to Sudan people to say, we're going to assist in this way, this way, this way. But the kind of assistance that goes to South Sudan, it's an AU assistance. South Africa, part of the AU. The obligation that is upon our shoulders now is that we are chairing the AU. And they look at us as a bit developed country in the continent. They're expecting more assistance from South Africa and Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy President. You can continue and respond to the question by Honorable SF Tutoit of the Freedom Front Plus.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chair.
No.
It cannot be denied that access to land and equitable ownership remains a fundamental pillar of building a socially inclusive and cohesive society. For us, the historical injustice of land dispossession and resultant skewed patterns of ownership impose a moral obligation to correct the wrongs of the past by expanding access to land to promote greater economic inclusion and social cohesion. To this, government is currently implementing a comprehensive land reform program in a very systematic, orderly, and responsible manner, consistent with the rule of law. We have committed ourselves that through the release and redistribution of strategically located state-owned land, we'll ensure that land is made available for agricultural development, land is made available for human settlement, land is made available for economic development, including targeted focus on stimulating rural and township economies. In this approach, there is no room for chaos and anarchy perpetrated under the guise of land reform. We are concerned about reports of sporadic land grabs in various areas around the country, including the Northwest. Incitement of violence and lawlessness is an antithesis of what we stand for as a constitutional state. As government, we condemn any incitement to lawlessness, particularly one that results in land grabs, as these are in violation of the laws and the Constitution of our country. We reiterate our call to all our citizens of our country to exercise restraint and to allow government to implement the necessary policy and constitutional reforms aimed at redressing the imbalances of the past as reflected in skewed and inequitable patterns of land, access, and ownership. To discourage unplanned and disorderly occupation and use of land, government has put in place legislative measures that will guide planning and land use management decisions at all levels, including local government. The Special Planning and Land Use Management Act, in short called SPLUMA, designates various land portions for specific use depending on spatial development priorities that are earmarked land parcels in any given locality for certain specific purposes. Various land uses could range from human settlement, could vary to agriculture, social infrastructure, or industrial use. Therefore, it goes without saying that land grabs can only disrupt the orderly and systematic planning and development, including the provision of the requisite infrastructure to support land use decisions. As part of discouraging incitement to violence and land grabs, it is critical for municipalities to put in place bylaws that will help them to regulate processes for dealing with issues of land access and use in areas under their jurisdiction. Where there is blatant violation and incitement of violence and land grabs, the law must take its course. You can be rest assured of the capacity of our criminal justice system to enforce compliance in line with our commitment to the rule of law. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy President. Honorable Du Toit, you will be allowed for the first supplementary question.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. Deputy President, thank you for your answer. With reference to the recent land invasions that took place in the Northwest Province, where actual ownership of land was provided by the landowners to the police, a legal route was taken and alternative land is available. The specific instance has been going on for more than 2 years now. Agricultural activities are prohibited and additional employment activities are also prohibited as a result. My question, Deputy President, what will you do to resolve the matter to ensure that social cohesion and the protection of job opportunities takes place in instances like this, where the whole process has been stretched out over years? Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have received a communique from the municipality and from the province of the Northwest requesting a certain portion of land from the national government to be released to the province and finally to the municipality for the purpose of human settlement. Now, this question has triggered a response on our side to check what is happening in the Northwest, and we found that request on our table. So we are going to take that discussion with the Premier of the Northwest and probably facilitate that the land be transferred to them. But the land will be transferred with a tag. It's just not, because you can transfer the land to the province and they use it for something else.
Exactly.
So we're going to transfer it with a tag to say it's specifically for human settlement. Any other use is not allowed. So that we resolve the problem of land shortage. If there are people that correctly and genuinely don't have land for human settlement, government is going to provide, and we've made that commitment. So we're going to attend to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Zandamela.
No, thank you, Deputy Chairperson. Deputy President, you mentioned that you've got a concern, especially about the land grabs that are happening, especially in the Northwest. Now, I just want to check with the Deputy President, what is the immediate plan that you've got? I heard you mentioning that the land will be transferred with tax in other areas, but there's a general problem, the whole country. People need land, there's no land. Hence, the amendment of Section 25, it should be concluded as soon as possible. But what is your immediate plan, especially in other areas? because this is a general crisis that we've got throughout the country. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much. You'll be aware that I'm chairing the IMC on land reform. Now, we've made quite significant progress in terms of isolating land that is in the hands of government, nationally and provincially, that must be released to people, which we are going to use an instrument under the rich distribution policy. We are redistributing this land back to the people, free of charge. But we are targeting women and young people. We're going to make that announcement, and it's quite vast pieces of land. They go beyond 1 million hectares, the portions of land all over the country. We have released land specifically for human settlement. We're working together with the Minister of Human Settlement, land that was in the hands of public works, in strategic areas, in towns, have been released, given to human settlement. Human settlement must discuss with provinces and municipalities, and they must build houses. The tag, no other use. This land is for human settlement. So that is going to be announced. But beyond that, people have claimed land to say we have been removed from these pieces of land during apartheid era, only to find that some of the land that has been claimed is currently in the hands of government. And we asked, why are you not giving these people land? It is their land. And finally, government has agreed to say, no, we're going to release this land free of charge. We're going to take it out of our books because this land has been claimed, the claim has been verified, and the claim is correct. Now, meanwhile, you are still discussing Section 25. We're busy this side. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ryder.
Dankie, geagte visievoorsitter. Geagte visievoorsitter, ek wil nie dit op hierdie stadium doen nie. En ek dink nie dit is doelbewus dat u dit doen nie, maar soos wat die visiepresident antwoord, kan ek baie duidelik hoor en ek kan ook sien hoe u saamstem en ek kan ook hoor dat u beaam. Met groot respek, u is as voorsittende beampte veronderstel om onpartydig te wees en dit moet ook so voorkom.
Ek het die landprobleme nie.
Ek sal u versoek asseblief dat ek besef dat
Dankie,
u dalk
maar
met hom
hulle
kan saamstem,
punt geneem.
maar ek wil nie weet dat u opinie is dat
Nee,
u met
maar
hom saamstem.
ek het ook landprobleme, maar punt aangeneem. Dankie. Honorable Ryder.
It looks like there's no question here.
No, the
It's
question
just a
is
complaint.
coming. The question is coming. That's just a point
That
of
was a
order.
complaint. Okay, all right. All right.
It was a point of order, Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you, Deputy Chairperson, and through you, Deputy President, thank you very much. But we cannot pretend that land grabs and land invasions are not happening. Right now, in the south of Johannesburg, between Lenasia South and Walkerville, informal houses are being erected in a systematic way on vacant land. People are paying a person who is not the owner of the land, but who is closely linked to the economic freedom fighters, for the right to erect shacks there. This is replicated across the country. It seems to be part of organized crime. But now, in this particular case, as you've mentioned, the land is owned by the Gauteng province and is earmarked for housing. These invaders are trying to circumvent the housing lists. Most of them erect shacks, they paint the names on the door, but then they're not even staying there. The matter's been raised with the Joburg municipality, the matter's been raised with the Gauteng province, and there's no action. The rightful beneficiaries of this land are being bullied out by a twisted political program.
Sorry, Honorable
The
Ryder.
situation is replicated
Honorable
throughout
Ryder,
the province.
There is a point of order, Honorable Makause.
Deputy House Chair, it looks like we're being undermined here. A member rises in the House. A member rises in this House, says that EFF members are organizing crimes of land grabs. That should be withdrawn. It has to be withdrawn. People must not take us
Honorable
for a
Nana,
ride here.
allow me to chair
You
the
steal
sitting.
the land and then you come and take us for granted.
Thank you, Honorable
It must be
Makause.
withdrawn.
You made your point. You made your point. I will request the table to check into that and then advise me. Honorable Ryder, can you please continue and complete your question?
Thank you very much,
We are going
Deputy Chair. I stand by my facts. What I was saying is that the rightful beneficiaries of the land are being bullied out by a twisted political program, and the situation is replicated throughout the province. The President says that there will be no land grabs allowed, and yet in reality on the ground, they are being allowed, Deputy President. When will government act to protect its land, its housing program, its people, and its laws by evicting these opportunists, confiscating the building material, and acting against the person who's defrauding people by selling land that is not his to sell? Thank you.
Before the Deputy President respond, I would just want really, Honorable Member, if there was issues of saying that EFF is organizing organized crime or what, rather withdraw before we go into an issue of, please. Honorable Ryder, can you please just withdraw the one that you said EFF is doing organized crime? Please. The implication thereof.
Chair-
Can you withdraw just that specific one?
Chair, can I repeat what I said, rather?
Yes,
Because
you
it's
may.
not what I said.
No, Honorable, I'm ruling that you withdraw the issue around the issues of organized crime. Because the implication, you understand it very clearly. So just withdraw that specific one.
Chairperson, I can't withdraw something that I didn't say, but if that was, I don't know how to address it, Deputy Chair. It's not something I said, so I can't withdraw it. But if the impression was given, I withdraw that the EFF is involved with organized crime. Their members might be.
Honorable Ryder, we wanted you to withdraw the implication that EFF is involved in organized crime. And thank you. You may sit down. Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much. Well, your concern is well placed, but I think we must start somewhere. In South Africa, there's a constitution. It's a country that is run through the laws of this country. And there's no other way that can help any authority anywhere else rather than applying the law. Get challenged when you apply the law and amend your law if you're challenged. But failure to apply the law when you are an authority, that is tantamount to abdicating your responsibility. If you're a government, if you're a municipality, you own a piece of land, if someone is invading that land, you must stand up and approach the court because this one is doing something wrong. Because there is a law that protects everyone. We should not allow this country to gravitate into a lawless society. Apply the law. So I don't agree with municipalities that they will allow people to invade land and they keep quiet. And then we want to come at a later stage and say, no, you must leave. And they don't provide them with an alternative land. The moment you put the first check, as a municipality, I'll be there and say, and then what's your problem? This is not your land. Because it is the responsibility of the provincial government to look after its assets. It is the responsibility of the municipality to look after its assets. And we come here and complain as if we're the owners of these assets. There are owners and they're sitting. And they're not taking the necessary action. So it's wrong. If they don't have a bylaw, they must create one. But I've seen provincial governments going to court and they were granted an eviction order to say, evict these people. And that is the only correct way to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy President. Honorable Moimang.
Thank you, Deputy Chairperson. Allow me also to express my gratitude to the Deputy President for the manner in which you responded to the question. Honorable Deputy Chairperson, indeed the unresolved land question lies at the heart of the uneasiness of the landless and dispossessed sectors of our society. But indeed, as the African National Congress, we are more concerned about the progress that we have made with regard to implementing, removing laws and policies that inhibit land distribution. Two, removing laws that promote racial inequality in land holding and tenure security. Therefore, we want to ask the Deputy President the progress that we are making in terms of reviewing those laws that has been an obstacle in terms of ensuring that the tenure of security of laws is indeed reviewed to stop evictions, and also to ensure that we remove barriers that will prevent black farmers to use land productively to improve livelihoods and benefit communities. Thank you, Deputy Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much. The fact that we have now created a land reform interministerial committee emanates from a resolution of the ruling party in its conference, where it spoke about land reform and indicated its unhappiness about the pace at which we're moving as government. It's very slow, and the process of willing buyer, willing seller, people are not happy with it. And therefore, a discussion emanated which finally came to the National Assembly, where we're looking at making it certain that this land reform process is a bit faster and it's not costly the way it is currently. But we must admit that there were certain pieces of land that were in the hands of government that could have been utilized correctly. And government did not at that time. Because if that land could have been redistributed to people, it could have increased our productive capacity in terms of agriculture, it could have lessened the shortage of human settlement, land for human settlement. I mean, we could have done a bit as government. So we take that criticism and we moved faster. You will realize the kind of land that we're going to release. This land is there in the hands of government, and we are saying to departments, tell us why you should keep that land. Now, there's land that is in the Department of Defense, there's land in your parastatal, your SOEs, like Transnet. Some of the pieces of land you know yourself. We have seen one piece of land or the other somewhere else. But those pieces are owned by government, and they are stalling development. So we should release them. As much as we say some land that has been taken, dispossessed from our people, must come back, we must also, in the same vein, release land that is in the hands of government so that this country can be productive. So that's the shortcoming Because if we don't criticize ourselves, we won't see our mistake. We must acknowledge our mistake and do better. I must say that our processes of land reform are moving a bit faster. I am happy with the performance of the IMC. Very good ministers. The Minister of Public Works is moving with a high speed. Things are happening. Land is going to be released. So I'm content. I'm content. We'll be, in the next month or two, we'll be giving people back their land. The redistribution policy has been published for comments. We are going to utilize that to distribute land to young people, to women. So the country will change. It will change. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy President. You may proceed to respond to question 3 that was asked by Honorable Tebogo Modise.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. As government, we are committed to resolving the energy problem that continues to cause inconvenience to our daily lives, causing constraint to the development and growth of the economy. A combination of short-term, medium-term, and long-term intervention is required to address the electricity supply and demand gap. Last year, the Minister of Minerals and Energy published the Integrated Resource Plan 2019 as a guiding blueprint for the implementation of targeted interventions to respond to the electricity supply challenge. This integrated resource plan is aimed at ensuring that security of supply by developing adequate generation capacity to meet the country's electricity demand is achieved. To this end, one of the key interventions in the energy mix is the accelerated implementation of the Renewable Energy Independent Power Producer Procurement Program. Honorable members will be aware that this program is already in the process of implementation. Bid windows 1, 2, and 3, and 4 are already operational. Bid window 1, 2, and 3 are already supplying energy into the grid. We're still waiting for bid window 4 to commit to the amount of energy that they will supply into the grid. The Department of Minerals and Energy is in talks with the independent power producer to explore available options to bring projects in bid window 4 on stream sooner than the original expected date. That, of course, will depend whether these projects have been completed or not, because we are now bringing them closer than the expected finish date. We want to assist the current supply constraints by bringing closer that window 4 and still pursue the department to open for window 5. The Department of Minerals and Energy is also finalizing consultation with Eskom, National Treasury, and the Department of Public Enterprises on the timetable and modalities for the procurement of bid window 5, like I've said. The details of the implementation timelines will be outlined by the Minister of Minerals and Energy in due course, once all the consultation processes have been finalized. However, it is important to point out that the Minister has already submitted to NERSA the necessary determination in terms of Section 34 of the Electricity Regulation Act. Once NERSA has finalized its processes, the Department of Mineral and Energy will proceed with the procurement. the Department of Mineral and Energy has developed regulation under the Electricity Regulation Act, outlining the framework of the development or procurement that must be done by municipalities of their own power generation capacities. These regulations will be published for public consultation, during which time SALGA and all the different municipalities will have an opportunity to comment on those regulations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy President. The first supplementary question, Honorable Modise.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. Let me welcome the response by the Deputy President. It shows that the government led by the ANC is doing very well to the working class and the poorest of the poor. It is. Also, Honorable Deputy President, I have a follow-up question. Has South Africa looked at addressing possible delay in successful implementation of renewable energy independent power producer procurement program, such as land rights, and request permits such as environmental authorization? Thank you, Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Modise. Honorable Deputy President.
Well, in terms of Deputy Chair, about our electricity, our generation capacity as a country, we're falling short. We're falling short of the capacity to generate more and more energy, and that is constraining the country from development. We're talking about all these renewable energies because we desperately want to expand our generation capacity. And this process and this time will pass. At a particular point, we'll be a better country. It is a necessary problem that we're facing as a country because it acts as a catalyst that will catalyze the country to stand up and deal with the problem. So as far as we're concerned, we're going to deal with this problem. The problems that are experienced by Eskom, we're going to deal with them. It's a question of time. I'm confident with the new leadership that is at Eskom that the problems that are there, especially the new CEO, I must commend the new CEO. He's doing very, very well. You can hear the message that is coming from Eskom, that is consistent. Maintenance, maintenance, even if it means putting certain power stations out of operation, do that, so that you secure the power supply. This is the message that South Africans have been waiting, and we can see now that the CEO is on the right track. Thank you very much.
Sorry, Honorable Deputy President, Honorable Arnold.
Deputy Chairperson, Honorable Deputy President, the Renewable Energy Independent Power Produce Procurement Program was launched in 2011 by your government with one of the aims to create jobs. Instead, we are getting more unemployment, higher electricity prices, and load shedding. In order to grow the economy, the country needs affordable electricity prices. Households are already struggling with higher electricity prices, with annual increases more than inflation, and negatively impact on the economy. Now, my question to you is, are you aware
in your independent power produce program that the president's family are involved as independent power producers? And will you be the first to speak out against nepotism? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Honorable Deputy President.
The first answer would be that I am not aware. I am not aware, and we're not going to support that. And I'm sure the family of the president is aware. But we must also be careful not to disadvantage people because of associations. Some people have got the right, like any other person, to have a right, as long as if that right is procured correctly. We're fine with that. So let's not deviate from the challenge that we're facing. If there's a problem, we'll deal with that problem, but the biggest problem is this country must increase its generation capacity. When we procured these independent power producers, window 1, window 2, window 3, they are already in the system. They are already putting energy into the grid, selling it to Eskom. Window 4, they are still preparing their projects. Some are solar, some are wind, ready to put into the system. But government, on top of these independent power producers, we commissioned Gusile and Medupi. By then, 2010, we never thought we'll run short of electricity, because here are 2 power stations that will add more than 4,000 megawatts into the grid. Here are independent power producers, and we thought we'll be home and dry. But come 2020, Medupi is not finished, Gusile is not finished. It's not giving us the required capacity that we planned for. Well, independent power producers, these are individuals that they are supplying 5 megawatts, 2 there, 10 there. Not significant. There's not even a single independent producer that is producing 500 megawatts. All of them are less than 100. Some are less than 50. Whether they are there or not, they don't make any difference. The only difference, the only snag where we experience a problem is with Gusile and Medupi. These 2 power stations were supposed to add 4,000. We're not supposed to be experiencing load shedding. But we appreciate the challenges, and we're going to fix these challenges. These 2 power stations will come into operation, and it will ease the burden. That will be my answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy President. Before we continue, possibly for the benefit of the special delegates, each of the supplementary questions have a limit of 4. There is 4 questions. So even if you have raised your hand and I have not identified you, it means that I have got a quota of 4. I just want, for the benefit of the special, I don't want to be intimidated when I'm here, because I can see people are trying to intimidate me now. Honorable Dutoy.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. Deputy President, with regards to mining companies being requested to look at manufacturing or making their own electricity to keep activities running, and the amendment of Article 25 of the Constitution, if that amendment is successful by any chance, what is the possibility that independent renewable power producers might be expropriated without compensation, since that might be in the best interest of the country?
Honorable Deputy
No,
President.
no, it won't. Let's not abuse the word expropriation without compensation. No, we are abusing the word. This is a business. It's owned by an individual. How do you expropriate a business owned by an individual? I'm saying, no, it's not related to the land question. The land, people have been dispossessed of their land. And they can prove that my ancestors were staying here, here's a grave, here's this, there's a process. And land, it's an economic tool that people can use to advance their livelihood. So that is why we're talking about expropriation of land without compensation. But with the independent power producers, they generate electricity, they sell it. Now, for now, they've made an agreement with Eskom to say they will sell it to Eskom. But that does not limit them in future to sell it to anyone, to any user, depending on how our regulation environment unfolds. But to date, we have agreed that municipalities can apply to the department to procure their own electricity from any other source. Maybe at one stage they will procure it from these independent power producers, as long as they can prove that they are financially stable, because if a municipality is in financial distress, it's putting the entire country into a financial problem. So it's important that the Department of Mineral and Energy must evaluate the financial fluidity of that municipality in order to sustain this procurement.
Honorable Dudway, order. Can we continue and ask the Honorable Mackenzie to ask his question?
Thank you, Deputy President, and thank you for the last point of your question, that on your answers. Actually a very important point. Given the fact that there are 22 municipalities currently in good financial standing in the Western Cape, who are able to maintain themselves and can produce renewable energy on your own, and given what the President said during the State of the Nation address few weeks back, will you give your unequivocal support, based on your previous answer, that you will give the 22 municipalities in the Western Cape the go-ahead to start immediately implementing their REIPPs? And will you then give Minister Mantashe a call, I see you've got your phone with you, to ask him to withdraw his court case against the city of Cape Town, currently before the High Court? Given your own previous answer, will you ask him to withdraw that case and allow the city of Cape Town to continue in starting to procure the electricity, to get that burden, as you said, away from those that cannot? Thank you.
Thank you very much. The statement that I've just made, I'm not basing it on rumors. I'm basing it on facts. The President, in the State of the Nation, said so. So why I should why I should go at length to say the President of the country said municipalities, those that are in good financial standing, must be allowed. And that's policy. Yes, that's policy.
Honorable Mackenzie, unless you want me to throw you out here, you must continue with what you are doing now. You must continue.
So what I'm trying to say, that is going to happen. Municipalities, they must prove that. But all what we know, is that municipalities, a number of them are failing to pay Eskom. No matter what the discrepancies are, but the voice from Eskom is that we are not getting paid. So we must come close and say, municipality, why are you not paying? And then they will say, yeah, no, these are, the bill is not a true reflection of the consumption, and this and this and this. But the fact of the matter, municipalities are struggling. They're struggling. So it's one thing to say, hey, let's allow them to go and procure. Down the line, they get into trouble. You see? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy President. We are continuing, and you are responding to question number 4 from the Honorable M.O. Mokause.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chair. In the 2020 State of the Nation address, His Excellency the President highlighted some of the steps that will be undertaken to address governance failures in state-owned enterprises. Among others, the Presidential SOE Council will undertake a process of rationalization of all the state-owned enterprises to ensure that they serve strategic economic development needs of our country. In this regard, Cabinet has announced on numerous occasions been appraised by the Minister of Public Enterprise on the work being done in improving the performance and governance of a few SOEs that are continuously in trouble. Those SOEs are Eskom, SAA, and you can name Dinel. These are some of the SOEs that are continuously struggling. The rationalization of the state-owned companies is work in progress, which will be undertaken until all of them are in a healthy position to be able to sustain themselves. Currently, all boards of the state-owned companies are in a process of being reviewed and strengthened. They have further been directed to focus on addressing all governance failures that have impacted negatively on the performance of these state-owned companies. At Dinel, changes have been effected with the announcement of the new interim board, so a similar intervention at SAA and Eskom. The board of Dinel has been repositioned, and since then, the board has been doing a lot of work to reposition the company and stabilizing its finances. This also includes expanding the order book of Dinel and its recapitalization in terms of provision of funding requirements for the restructuring. Dinel is currently implementing a turnaround plan to put the company on a sustainable recovery path. Amongst others, the key pillars of the plan is improving the corporate governance and the oversight to ensure effective management and accountability, divesting non-core assets to generate revenue, reduce costs, and achieve operational efficiencies, retention of core skills and delivery of capabilities to restore impaired reputation. With regards to SAA, during the State of the Nation address, the President announced that the business rescue practitioners are expected to unveil a plan for restructuring the airline in the next few weeks. In December 2019, the President announced that the re-establishment of the Energy Task Team to deal with the energy supply in the country is going to happen. The task team is being chaired by the Deputy President, and has since been established and consists of ministers, Minister in the Presidency, Minister of Public Enterprise, Minister of Mineral and Energy, Minister of Finance, Minister of Cooperative Governance, Minister of State Security, and the Minister of Police. This task team is a critical institutional platform to coordinate all support intervention towards ensuring that Eskom has the requisite capacity to meet its obligation of providing electricity. This task team will have the luxury of inviting independent experts to advise this team on the challenges that are faced by Eskom. The situation seems to be improving, and there is a clearer plan by Eskom leadership. They have begun with the plant maintenance program to improve generation capacity, and we're thus confident that Eskom leadership will do whatever is possible to put the organization and the entity on a sustainable recovery path, including all the governance challenges that are experienced by Eskom. As government will continue to support the board, the CEO and the management of Eskom in trying to address these challenges so that we can reverse this energy crisis that is facing our country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy President. Honorable Makause, you will be asking the first supplementary question.
Thank you, Deputy House Chairperson. Deputy President, it looks like
Honorable
there's too
Makause,
much...
can I call you into order? You are deliberately demoting me here, Mozan. I'm the Deputy Chairperson of the NCOP. I'm not a Deputy House Chairperson.
You know, people in this parliament loves position. Today it's evident. Deputy Chairperson of the NCOP. Thank you. Deputy President, it looks like there's too much secrecy here, and people are willing to go as far as misleading the President in terms of the operations within the state entities. You yourself went out and told South Africans, together with media, that Minister Jamnandas, in fact, misled the President relating to the January load shedding, together with the former chairperson of Eskom. That came from you.
Yes.
Deputy President, as of March 2020, are you aware of any conversation between Minister Jamnandas and any other sources which are in a process of buying assets of Denel and Eskom? And if you are not aware, are you also aware that these conversations and deliberations are happening without the knowledge of the state president? Because Minister Jamnandas, in fact, he is the president of this country.
Honorable Deputy President.
Well, thank you very much. Truly, I am not aware. Maybe I'm naive, but I can't be prying on what people are doing every day. But as government representative, we've got an obligation to do our work in a transparent manner. So I am not aware. All I'm aware of is that there is a friction that exists between the EFF and the Minister of Public Enterprise. I don't know what informs that friction, but each time I see you, there's a fight. I don't know. You remember the last time I was in the House. The last time I was in the House, we spoke of a letter.
Honorable Deputy President, can we allow for a point of order? Honorable Makause. Let me hear the point of order here.
Deputy President,
Take a seat.
Deputy Chairperson of the NCOP. The Deputy President is out of order. We cannot say there's a friction between a political party and a minister when we come to this house and raise legitimate and genuine issues. You are out of order, and I'm going to ask you to
Honorable
withdraw that.
Makause, that is not a point of order. Honorable Deputy President, you may continue.
Well, the Deputy Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces. Maybe if the member asserts that I'm out of order, maybe we should accept that and say,
Honorable Deputy
it's my
President,
suspicion.
there is no order in the out of order, so you can continue.
It's my suspicion, and my suspicion, Deputy Chairperson, emanates from the fact that in this very house, I came and I was asked by a letter that I was supposed to have received about Minister Pravin Gordhan. And I said, I haven't received that letter because there are procedures in the house where if there's a problem, if there's a question, it must go through the procedures of this house. And we went around in circles discussing this matter. And after leaving this, I was just thinking about this question. Why? And I'm a member of the National Assembly, and I can see the friction. Now, if the member is saying I'm out of order, I withdraw. I withdraw. But I suspect
Honorable Deputy
a
President, I want to
friction.
repeat at no stage where you found out of order.
Okay.
So continue.
Thank you. Okay, I'm done.
It's done. Honorable Msimanga.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Chairperson of NCOP and Deputy President. Deputy President, I want to say to you that since 1999 to 2017, SAA has received 39 billion rand. And between 2017 and 2019, or last year, it received another 10.3 billion rand. And we've just now heard the Minister of Finance talking about another 16.3 billion rand that is going to be allocated in the next coming 3 years. The national carrier prides itself as being a national or the flag bearer of any country, and it being able to then not only fly on an international basis, but also able to cover all the areas of your country. Now, Deputy President, there's been cancellation of the flights from East London and Port Elizabeth. And we are now hearing about further cuts that are expected, or further cancellation of flights. Now, the questions that I want to ask are the following. Given the fact that we have given so much billions into SAA up to date, and also planning to give much more, has the government engaged with other airlines to fill the void that SAA is leaving? That's number one. Number two, can the Deputy President give me 2 specific things that will be done differently to, in the next coming 3 years that have not been done in the last 21 years? But lastly, don't you think that it is time that we look at privatizing or selling out, or privatizing part of or selling out SAA completely? Thank you.
Honorable Deputy President, you may
Thank you very
respond.
much. The last question, as government, we are not looking at privatizing the airline. We still think we can deal with the challenges that are faced by the airline. That is why we've allowed this time a business rescue practitioner. This business rescue practitioner, you'll understand when a business is referred to a business rescue, that means the business is facing problems. The business must be rescued. But the business rescue practitioner will tell you exactly what is wrong with the business. And if you want this business to function, attend to this and this and this and this and this. The business must change this, the business must change this. This is not sustainable, this is not sustainable. That is why the business is losing a lot of money. That is why we subjected voluntarily this business into a business rescue, because we want to rescue the business. We agree that the business is facing a lot of strain, is going through difficult times. But we have not come to a point where we should just desert the business. We still think South Africans, they want this business. It is their business. We have not reached a point where we think South Africans are saying, sell this business. This business, our SAA, belongs to the people of South Africa. And we have not reached that point to say, no, in the interest of the country, let's sell this business. We came out, the president came out in the State of the Nation and said, we're going to rescue this business. And the country agreed. But of course, it's painful because we're paying money to rescue the business. But I can rest assured that this too will pass. The business will come again and be a strong business. With the roots, we are not going to give up our roots, because an airline business is about roots. That's why taxi people are fighting every day, fighting about roots, because the more you get roots, the more you get an income. So we're not going to desert our roots. If we do that, it means it's temporary. We're going to get back our roots, because the airline business is about these roots. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy President. Honorable Zandamela.
No, thank you, Deputy Chairperson. Deputy President, but I would like to first, I understand why the honorable member said SAA must be sold. So now we understand what interest is he pushing. But what I want to say to us, Deputy President, is you gave us a clear answer when it comes to Eskom that you are a bit happy. It seems like things are coming all right. It's turning the corner. Well, there's a lot of things that have been raised today, especially with SAA, the cancellation of routes and all those kind of things. But can you please maybe put the country into confidence in this house and give us a clear answer? What is it exactly going on at SAA? Where are we? Are we getting it right? Or you still waiting maybe for the business rescue practitioner maybe to give you his report? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Zandamela. Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much. I'm generally in the same position where you are yourself in terms of information about SAA. Why? Because as government, we are running SAA as a business. This is a public entity. As government, we are a shareholder. We are the biggest shareholder, if not the only shareholder. But when it comes to the running of the business, there is a board, there's a CEO and all that. It's a business that is run at a distance. It can enter into private agreements and dealings. It's a business. Now, for us to agree to say the business that we own, having the majority shares as the shareholder, we subject it into a rescue practitioner, a business rescue practitioner. That means we are agreeing to follow the company laws. That if a business is dying, put it in under business rescue. Rescue the business. Now, if you rescue the business, you're not allowed to interfere with the business rescue practitioner. You can't be the referee and the player at the same time. Now, the only thing that we have told the business rescue is to say, rescue this business and tell us what is putting this business here.
Just one moment. Honorable Mikalakas, is there a point of order? No, if you don't have a point of order, you know that question of yours will stand over for the next question session. Honorable Deputy President.
Yes, I'm saying, okay. I'm saying we have agreed to allow the business rescue practitioner to take over. And we thought it's a fair decision. Let's get an independent view about the business. We've got a board that has been fighting with the CEO and all that. The board was not helpful. Well, we might say it's incompetent and whatnot, but they were not helpful. Hence, we have agreed to put the business under business rescue. So, the business rescue practitioner will then present a report in the shortest term available from today, because they operate on timelines. So South Africans will know exactly what is the problem with the business. They will tell you, maybe the food that you are eating in the plane is costing SAA a lot of money. Maybe the ticket is too expensive and SAA is not compatible with all the other prices, airlines. I mean, they'll tell you exactly what is the problem with the airline, and then we'll fix that. That is what I can say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy President. Honorable Goya.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Chair. Honorable Deputy President, not very long ago, the Honorable Minister Pravin Gordhan was congratulated and people were prepared to fight when he was removed as the minister. Today, he's the worst thing they've ever had. I just want to give you a homework, Honorable Deputy President, to investigate what went wrong. But in our view, it's just that there's this obsession trying to gain political relevance using the person. Now, our follow-up question, without raising the populist rhetoric that my honorable members here are busy with, we want to check in terms of whether there is an operational plan, particularly for Eskom, because our interest is much on Eskom, especially when it comes to the poor people. We want to check in terms of the operational plan to improve the efficiency of Eskom, to ensure that we fight the debt burden. Because my view is that the amount of debt that Eskom owes and is owed has an impact on the efficiency of Eskom as an entity. So in order to ensure that as the time goes by, we've got reliable energy in the country and we don't have the crisis that we are having now. Thanks, thanks, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy President. You may respond.
Deputy Chair, I think the first thing that we are trying to achieve with Eskom is to get stability first. We're quite confident that the CEO that has been appointed, I can assure the House that is an appropriate CEO. He's confident, he knows what he's talking about. Well, other compatriots and other folks in the country had a problem about his color. And I want to say, don't have a problem about the color. Your country is a non-racial country. But I can assure you that you have got a diligent person. The first meeting that we had, he gave us exactly the way he understands Eskom. And the answer that he gave to say, you can't avoid load shedding. You can't avoid load shedding. Go and fix this and this and this and this. I can't. I can't come here and lie to you and say, no, there won't be load shedding. There will be load shedding. There will be load shedding as I'm fixing this power station, that power station, that power station, and he indicated those power stations. And I found him very fair. Now, he's doing something about Medupi and Usile. He's doing something about the skills in the company. He's doing something about the number of employees that seem to be more than required in the entity. He's doing something about the generation capacity of Eskom. The biggest challenge, the biggest elephant in the room is the amount owed by Eskom, the debt. Now this matter is being discussed at NEDLEC. NEDLEC, Labour wants to come into the discussion. You'll remember that some of the money that has been borrowed by Eskom, that money belongs to the PIC. That money belongs to the workers. This is the pension of the workers. So the workers have got a say. And the workers in our country, they are amenable to rescue their own public enterprise. They're still discussing, and I'm hopeful that we'll find a solution. If we can deal with the debt problem of Eskom, then we are out of the woods. But I'm worried about the culture of payment for electricity. Our people must pay. Our people must pay. I've seen our people in Soweto marching about the bills. As much as they've got concerns about the bills that have been issued by Eskom, let them discuss that. But finally, our people must know that the electricity that we're using, Eskom is using money to generate that electricity. And we must pay. I must say to our people in Soweto, I was part of them when we were boycotting payments, when we were saying, let's not pay, because we wanted to bring down the apartheid government. But things have changed. Today we've got a democratic government. We can talk, and we must pay. We must sustain our own country. That is my appeal to them as brothers and sisters, this time, this is your own government. You have elected this government, you have participated in the elections, so you can't contribute by not paying. By doing so,
Thank
you
you,
are bringing
Honorable
the very
Deputy
same
President.
government, you are bringing it down.
Thank you. Thank you, honorable members. We are continuing and we are allowing the Deputy President to respond to question 5 asked by the Honorable Labuskaghni that will be handled by Honorable Ryder. Honorable Deputy President.
Honorable Deputy Chair, ours is a constitutional democracy. The Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, Act 108 of 1996, makes provision for the principle of the separation of powers. According to this principle, the power of the state is divided into 3 different but interdependent components, namely the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. Neither the cabinet nor parliament may supersede, ignore, or undermine the constitutional powers of the judiciary. That will be my response to the question. Thank you very much.
Follow-up, supplementary. Honorable Ryder.
Thank you, Deputy Chair, and thank you for the response, Deputy President. Now, our record of an independent judiciary is excellent to date, and the separation of powers is a cornerstone of our constitutional democracy. But it was recently announced that the ANC NEC took a resolution that the executive should have all powers when making decisions relating to land expropriation without compensation, effectively proposing executive overreach. And this is essentially making the courts appear as the scapegoat for slow land reform. The reality is that national government themselves have dismally failed in accelerating adequate land reform within the confines of the Constitution and complementary legislation. There is still so much land that has already been expropriated with compensation by national government that has not yet been handed out to South Africans. When will this administration stop blaming another arm of government for their own failures, respect the decision-making powers of the courts, and admit that the legislation for satisfactory land reform is already in place?
Just before you respond, Honorable Deputy President, it is, if you want to, you can respond, but I don't know how party political issues become relevant within the House if we are here. Because that is a party political issue, it is a resolution of a party, and it's the same when you say EFF is doing whatever. So what I'm saying is that you can respond if you think you want to respond, but it is not relevant for our House in the work, our work in the House, yes.
It's a point of order, Chair. In terms of the rules of the House, if you are going to make a statement that, like the previous member has done, you have to do it in a form of a substantive motion. One is distorting the resolution of African National Congress, abusing the question of a judiciary, parliament, and executive, while smuggling something that is totally different. So if he wanted to ask whether the president is going to comment or not, if he wanted to ask about ANC, let it be factual in terms of the resolution of the ANC, not to come here and distort that resolution.
Point taken. Honorable Mikalakis, one thing that I cannot understand is why you are standing whilst I have not even
Well, on a
recognized
point
you.
of order, Deputy
No,
Chairperson.
Honorable Mikalakis, sit down. Is what I'm not dealing with your emotions here. I'm dealing with the point on the table. So even
Sorry,
if
I
you
can't
feel
hear you, Deputy Chair, because I'm hearing quite a lot of shouting from the
sit
special
down,
delegate from
sit
Gauteng.
down. That one, I'm sure you can hear it very clearly.
I have a point of
Honorable
order.
Mikalakis, sit down and indicate that you want to speak and on what point. Yes. Nice you want to speak on what point?
Thank you, Deputy
What is
Chairperson.
your point?
I'm indebted to you for
Are
your
you
kindness.
rising on a
Honourable-
point of order, or what is the point?
Honourable
that you are
Deputy
rising on?
Chairperson, I'm rising on a point of order, yes.
Now, what is your point?
Honourable Deputy Chairperson, the House Chairperson's point of order just now indicated that the member should bring a substantive motion. Now, firstly, the House does not make, or the rules do not make provision for a substantive motion, and secondly, the ANC is not a member of this House. So I do not understand how on earth a member should bring a substantive motion for the ANC in the NCOP, and it's a presiding officer that is actually making such a point of order.
Thank you, Honourable Mikalakis. I think you must sit down because you didn't bring a point of order. I repeat, the Deputy President of the country can respond if he wants to, but he is not compelled to, because the issue is not about a resolution or a legislation or a policy. It's about something that was said in a meeting of a political party, and I don't think we are compelled to accommodate such. Honourable.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. I think we'll follow your ruling, but I must say that the judiciary will always remain an arbiter. If any two warring parties have got differences, the judiciary will settle that. Now, the judiciary has made options available. If you are not happy with a certain decision of the judiciary, you can appeal. And appeal again. You can appeal twice, and finally the decision is binding. Now, once you go to the Supreme Court, the matter is done. Now, we can debate here about the constitutionality of everything, but finally, if we're not happy, we'll take ourselves to the Constitutional Court and they will decide. That is how these separations of powers goes. The laws that you're passing here, you are not constitutional experts. It can be challenged. Someone can tell you that this law that you have passed is not constitutionally correct, and take you to the Constitutional Court, and the Constitutional Court agrees with that person. And the laws will be referred back. How many laws have been referred back by the Constitutional Court to be corrected by this House? A lot of them. That indicates the independence of the judiciary. Now, you have promulgated, you have passed that law, the President have assented to the law, the legislature have passed the law, the President has signed, the executive has signed, but the judiciary says no. That's how independent they are. So I don't see any threat. The judiciary will remain the judiciary. We don't want to impose. But if there's any matter that we don't agree with amongst ourselves, whether it's compensation, I want to compensate you with 2 rand and you say 10 rand, we can finally go to the court and the court will settle our dispute. And finally, we'll have to agree with the settlement, because you can be allowed twice to appeal, and the last time you take the settlement. That's how far I can help you.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy President. Honourable Dodo.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chair of the NCOP and Deputy President. Deputy President, in order to realize the objectives of the National Development Agenda,
it is quite important that the different spheres of government work together, integrate their efforts and actions to realize those particular objectives, more especially around unemployment, poverty alleviation, and inequalities within our society. Now, with that in mind, what are other platforms and other initiatives by government to ensure that we remain coordinated, that its actions are integrated for giving better services to the people? Because for me, that is quite important. Thank you.
Honorable Deputy President.
Well, I think in terms of our constitution, it gives the executive ample space.
Just before you respond, Honorable Deputy President, when listening to the question and also according to the advice from the table, that is a complete new question. I'm sorry, Honorable Dodo, we will not accommodate that one. Honorable Ngita.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chairperson. Deputy Chairperson, before my question to the Deputy President, I just want to state the fact that every government institution should make indispensable contribution to the ultimate goal of state, namely the advancement of general welfare of our people, a relationship of interdependent and interaction between the government institution as well as civil society is therefore necessary. Section 41(2) of the Constitution is clear on that. My question therefore is, in light of the question of the DA, are there any impending disputes between the three spheres of government, especially in relation to their execution of their constitutional mandates? That's what I would like to know, especially that the DA has raised the issue, Chair. I just want to know, is it not one of their own ways of creating crisis where there is no crisis? Thank you very much.
Honorable Deputy President.
Well, standing here, I'm not aware of any challenge between the three arms of the state. I'm not aware of any contradiction. It might be something that the member is anticipating it will happen, or maybe, like he's saying, he has heard that a certain organization is discussing about something that he's not very sure of. Maybe we can wait until that thing is clearer and see whether it contradicts the three arms of the state as they stand. But for now, I think we'll be jumping the gun to say there's any violation of anything. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Deputy President. Then we shall continue and you will respond to question number 6 as asked by the Honorable A.J. Nyambi.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chairperson. Our overall approach to stimulating economic growth, deepening broad-based economic inclusion, and meaningful participation is predicated on the understanding that we need to transform townships and villages into thriving economic hubs and integrate them into the mainstream of our economy. Township and rural economies represent an untapped potential that could unlock the new frontiers of growth and diversification of industrial development and investment in areas where the majority of poor and underprivileged communities live. Embedded in the government's implementation of the district model, it is clear articulation of our targeted approach towards investing in economic sectors to support entrepreneurship, job creation in townships and rural areas. Within a defined spatial development perspective, government's One Plan is intended to integrate and align government investment to achieve maximum impact that will contribute to the long-term development of a specific district or a specific metro. As part of government's plan to support provincial growth and development strategies, we are currently working with provinces to align their provincial economic development plans with broader goals of the National Development Plan. At a district level, we're identifying high-impact investment projects that will drive growth based on individual comparative advantages of each district or of each metro. The portfolio of projects includes projects implemented in deep rural villages and townships to promote agricultural production as well as beneficiation, infrastructure development and support to local industries, network industries, and new communication technologies. This will be enhanced through proper coordination by a newly established infrastructure and investment unit that is located in the Presidency. Special economic zones and the revitalization of industrial parks is one of the key pillars of our industrialization program and are critical platforms to integrate township and rural small businesses into domestic and global market value chains. They play a catalytic role to promote entrepreneurship, skills development, infrastructure development in township and rural areas. For instance, where the honorable member is coming from in Mpumalanga, the refurbishment of warehousing facilities in places like Gabogweni and the envisaged Nkomazi Special Economic Zone in Ehlanzeni district, where honorable member is coming from, has the potential to create opportunities for small businesses to participate in agriculture and agro-processing value chains, thereby accessing domestic and export markets. The building of the new fresh produce market that is located in Bombela, which has already started, is one opportunity that is offering small-scale farmers, together with commercial farmers, a platform to market their produce. As part of supporting small businesses, including those in township and rural areas, we are working with provinces to ensure that we provide funding and mentorship support to improve their prospects of success. The Township Entrepreneurship Fund that is intended to provide the needed support to all our rural and township SMMEs and will be rolled out within the next context of the district development model. This fund, located under the Department of Small Businesses, is meant to support small businesses and small farmers. Working with the department, with the Planning Commission, we have initiated collaborative engagement with the provincial teams to formulate a functional framework to empower township and rural businesses. In this regard, leveraging government procurement has been identified as the key tool that can kickstart and accelerate the empowerment of township and rural enterprises. For example, the government nutrition program presents one big opportunity for the procurement of fresh produce directly from farmers to supply government institutions such as schools, hospitals, and prisons. As the National Council of Provinces, you should play a monitoring role over provinces in their implementation of all these initiatives. Our infrastructure program have the capacity, again, to stimulate the manufacture of construction material, to supply materials for construction of our houses, constructions of our school, hospitals, and roads. We are working with national and provincial governments to ensure our public spend fosters the development of rural and township businesses. National government is also working with provinces and municipalities to improve the regulatory environment for small businesses in township and rural villages. Honorable members and Honorable Deputy Chair, it is our firm commitment to ensure that government promotes inclusive economic growth and also taking the previously neglected and disadvantaged communities in our rural areas and townships into programs that would fight unemployment, programs that will fight poverty, programs that will fight inequality. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy President. The first supplementary question, Honorable Nyambi.
Thanks, Deputy Chairperson. Thank you, Deputy President, for the detailed response. Justice has been done to my question. The only missing part, it's when we have this flagship program in NCOP, taking Parliament to the people, we're always witnessing the dominated expansion of the informal trade, especially in township and rural areas. So as the House that is doing the effective oversight in departments, probably if you can share with us the strategy, Deputy President, that will try to make sure that it extends to other actors that are involved in the economy, such as large corporations, media, non-governmental organizations, to make sure that they are part of the solution in addressing the details of what you have presented. And indeed, I can confirm that where I'm coming from, what you have explained, it's exactly happening. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member, Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much. Honorable Member, I'm working closely with the Minister of Small Businesses. Now, this entrepreneurship fund is located in her department. And the discussion that we have is that, first of all, let's go out there and find these SMMEs. If they are not there, let's create them. Let's create them and present them with an opportunity to manufacture and produce goods that will be sold to government. The goods that we're talking about bricks, we're talking about window frames, we're talking about food that we're selling to, we're giving to our children. That means we can set up farmers, small farmers, utilize the agri-hubs, utilize the fresh produce market to process their products. But the first platform where to sell this food, it's your own government institutions. So these small business people, they are guaranteed of their return. That means if they produce, definitely their goods is going to be bought. Now, we are also encouraging that as much as some of the money that we're going to use to support them is going to be a grant. Government is going to give them that money, free of charge. But some of the money should be a loan attached to a financial institution. So we are giving them a blended finance, we are giving them a grant, we are giving them a loan to start their business. You enroll them, you support them, so that you see to it that they succeed. We're expecting this to happen in all our special economic zones. That is where we think our SMMEs should participate. Why? Because in those SEZ, there are special conditions that are offered to businesses in those areas. Firstly, they get reduced tariffs on electricity, and they get reduced tariffs on water. Whatever services that they get in a special economic zone, the conditions are relaxed to support investment in those areas. So we think this is one way of stimulating economic activity, especially in the informal economy, in your rural areas and townships. Already, we have directed that all the former industrial parks that used to be functioning in the former homelands, those industrial parks must be renovated. We must allow small and medium enterprises to come and occupy those industrial parks and start producing. There are a lot of things that they can produce, services that government can procure. So we have identified government procurement as the first tool that can stimulate SMMEs development. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy President. Honorable Mackenzie.
Thank you, Deputy Chairperson, and thank you, Deputy President. Deputy President, I must say you speak candidly and frankly about our problems, which is rare. You really speak like the President of the country. Thank you for that. Deputy President, as someone who's the former Premier of a province, you fully understand what's needed for provincial economies to flourish and what's needed for them to succeed. Given what the President also said last month in his State of the Nation address about IPPs and about what provinces need, and you know that the electricity is currently the biggest stumbling block for our province to succeed. And earlier on your reply, you mentioned that some provinces might not be financially, or some municipalities might not be financially able, and they might collapse, etc. But given that it has been said by the Western Cape and by that there are 22 municipalities that are currently ready to generate their own electricity via IPPs, what will you do as the Deputy President and as the leader of government business to assist those municipalities, whether it's the Western Cape or Gauteng or the Eastern Cape, that is currently ready to proceed? What will you do as the leader of government business and the Deputy President to allow those that is ready and financially able to proceed and become less of a burden to Eskom? The second part of the question is, last week Sebokeng Zone 4 was without electricity for 4 days. So a lot of our township businesses and small businesses, the fridges didn't work, they couldn't serve cold beer, they couldn't make food for the people. How will you as the leader of government businesses, and what can one do to hold the municipalities accountable for those small businesses in our townships that couldn't function? Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. The first part of your question, like I've said, that the Minister of Mineral and Energy, after the instruction by the President to say municipalities that can afford should be allowed to procure electricity from any generators, not necessarily Eskom. Now, the Minister is now busy putting regulations. This will regulate how a municipality is going to go about accessing that opportunity. There are certain requirements that you must fulfill, but as we are talking, as a country, we are gearing ourselves ready to free those institutions that can be freed even private businesses, if they've got the capacity to generate on their own, they will be allowed to generate, so that we ease our capacity. The country needs to move forward, and Eskom is unable to match the demand as we speak. So we should allow these other independent power producers to come into the space so that the country can move forward. This is how we suggest we should move forward, but the minister is going to announce the regulations that municipalities, they will be discussed with SALGA. All municipalities will have an opportunity to discuss. But when it comes to SMMEs in a municipality, the first weakness of a municipality, people will go around, open businesses without the knowledge of the municipality. You will find a spaza shop, the municipality is not aware. They are trading. It is their duty. This business must pay revenue to the municipality. You can't open a business in any space in a municipality without the municipality knowing, and you must pay. So municipalities must make bylaws assisted by the province. If you want to open a liquor outlet, you must get a license, and we must see to it that this liquor outlet is not next to a school, is not next to a church, so that we don't have mixed development. This side we've got children going to school, this side we've got people drinking alcohol, as if there's no law. Municipalities must take their responsibility. If you want to open a liquor outlet, we're going to tell you, you can open it there, and you can open this time and this time. This time you must close. And you must pay a certain revenue. That is the responsibility of a municipality, of a province. Register all these businesses. Support these businesses. It will be easy now. If I come to a province, coming from national, you want to assist SMMEs, already the municipality has got an inventory, a database of all those companies, because they know they operate within the municipality. So municipalities are found wanting. Up until they define, they enact laws that will bring order in a municipal space, even in terms of settlement, there should be order. You can't just put a house, put a business without the consent of a municipality. So in a way, our municipalities are abdicating their responsibility. That is why there's chaos. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy President. Honorable Dango.
Your Excellency, Deputy President, Your Excellency, the challenges to the development of this is water, in fact. Development of provincial economics is sustainable infrastructure. Focusing on the delivery of health, water is important. Of concern is the Vaal River system, Tshwane and Madibeng. My question is, what measures are in place to ensure that the water situation does not have an adverse effect on the facilitation and the promotion of provincial economies? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Dango.
Thank you very much.
Deputy President.
I think after a long deliberation between myself and the President, we had an opportunity to sit and discuss. He invited me to come to his house. And then he said, no, let's have tea. I've got an idea. This idea, I'm not happy about the way we are delivering services in the country. And I said, well, I hear, President, He said, I'm thinking that we are disjointed. National, provincial, municipality, we are not coordinated. I therefore want to propose a district model in the way we want to deliver services. Let's all utilize the platform of a district. National, provincial, and municipal level. All of us have one plan that is defined in a district. The plan is costed, the projects are known. That will foster the working together between the three spheres of government. Now, when you build houses, someone must build those houses, probably is the province, but the municipality must ensure that there is water in those houses. You won't have a situation where you build houses and then you come, people then start toying, they want water. You must come and put water. But right from the inception, in the planning, as you plan to put houses, you plan for the bulk water. As you plan to build a school, you plan for the water. So all of us that must present the services meet at a district platform. So in all the 46 districts, plus the metros, we've got each and every district will have a plan. And in that plan, there's a combination of national government, provincial government, and municipality. All of us are delivering services we can monitor at a district level. And I said to the President, yes, I agree. In fact, President, my experience as a former premier is that when I was in that province, I will hear that a certain minister is in the province, is delivering a certain project, and I don't know. And I don't know. In fact, the minister is building an agri-hub. In that agri-hub, we must put water, we must mobilize farmers to use that facility. But because we're not together, that agri-hub stands the risk of becoming a white elephant, not utilized. Now, I'm happy that as government we are rolling out the district model. We have gone into 3 districts and this model is working. What is interesting is that this model gives you the profile of that district. It will tell you how many women are there. It will tell you how many children-headed households are there. How many unemployed people. I mean, you get the profile of the district so that as you respond on the basis of the profile of the actual situation at the district level. But at the district level, we're going to meet national, the province, and the municipalities in that district. And then we have got one plan about the development of that district. Whether it is economic development, whether it is the delivery of services, water, whether it's the delivery of electricity, we'll have one plan and one budget. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable. Honorable Molitsane.
Thank you, Deputy Chairperson of the NCOP. Deputy President, following your response, I've heard that you talked about there will be some funding that's going to be available in order to make sure that some of the projects are successful with an intention of trying to improve the economy in the provinces, especially the rural places and towns. So I just want to check with you that how are you going to ensure the accountability and the consequence management to ensure that we uplift those small farming and avoid another scandals like Friede Dairy that happened in Free State? Thank you.
Honorable Deputy President.
Well, thank you very much. Each time when we're doing our work as government, it's compulsory that we must put checks and balances so that we secure public funds. We've got rules and laws that regulate our procurement process. At times, these rules are cumbersome. At times, they are helpful. They assist that we lessen corruption. Every time in the execution of our work, we must put some measures that will stop and deal with corruption. But that should not really scare us from proceeding. We are going to support small farmers. We are going to support small businesses, whether in the form of a grant. Nationally, we are going to support farmers. We are going to give them a grant, working together with the Development Bank of South Africa or Land Bank. Land Bank will give them a loan. As government, we give them a grant. And then we monitor them, that they must work, they must produce, and pay the debt to the Land Bank. All the restituted farms, all the people that were going to support them with land, we must support them financially to produce. Monitor them that they are producing, because there's a debt that they must pay. This is what we're going to do. Every province should have to register all their SMMEs. They must be in a database. They must be supported. They must be given the necessary skills, financial skills, management skills, business skills, until someone is capable of running his or her own company. And then we can leave that person. That person will be now fully matured business person. In terms of agriculture, we say this farmer is now commercialized. That means he's able to carry himself or herself without any support. But all what we want to do is to increase the base economic activity, the production level of the country, get people to produce, get people to employ themselves, get people to deal with poverty, get people to deal with hunger, let them produce food, let them go to work, let them create work themselves, but support them. In that way, some of the businesses that you have supported will then pay tax. You have increased your revenue base. All those will be making a certain amount of money beyond a certain threshold. They will then start paying tax. That is the only way we can bring back our economy into life. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy President. They dealt with the questions. We have concluded it for the day.
Thank you.
Order. Deputy President, you may go to your seat.
Chair, I would want to thank Honorable Mackenzie and Solim Simang
Honorable
for
Nana.
having
Yes,
come
Honorable
to do some
Nana.
work here.
There
They
is-
are not
Honorable
warming their
Nana.
benches. Thank you very much,
Honorable
Solim. Thank you very
Nana.
much, Ricardo.
Honorable Nana, it will be the last time that you try me like this. Because the next time, I'm going to make sure that I throw you out of the house. Honorable members, just before we conclude, Chief Whip.
Deputy Chair, there's a pattern developing in the House, either where members want to use questions because they are tabled, to feature other political matters that wouldn't allow for discussions to take place. And also to seize the moment on crucial moments that undermine the decorum of the House. It is established practice that after the Deputy President has addressed the House, the first is left for the Deputy Chair to make pronouncements on what we make out of the presence of the Deputy Chair in the House. So I think we should be consistent with that, really not play cheap party political grandstanding here that undermines the dignity of the House. Thanks.
Honorable members, the Chief Whip have spoken. Let me just appreciate the presence of special delegates that are here today, and also I should have done it in the beginning to apologize for the delegation of KZN. They are attending the address of His Majesty the King and also the State of the Province address. So they, as a delegation, they are not present here. Let us really appreciate Honorable Deputy President. I must commend you. The first time when you came here, you were still just responding, but I can see really you are so used to this thing now. It was so structured and it was very good. We appreciate that because it also helped us in making sure that the sitting doesn't continue for too long. And I was in fact saying to someone before we came here, one thing about the Deputy President, he doesn't have elaborate answers. He's strict and straight and to the point, and we appreciate that as the NCOP, because you are also assisting us to understand issues much better. So let us express our appreciation as the National Council of Provinces to yourself as well as your team that is assisting you so very ably. Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy President. Honorable members, that concludes the business of the day. You are requested to remain standing until the procession has left the House. The House is adjourned.